For centuries, humanity had looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone in the universe. People dreamed of meeting intelligent life forms, imagining peaceful exchanges of knowledge and culture. But no one ever expected that first contact. With aliens would come not as a handshake but as an attack, a brutal, unprovoked assault that left Earth trembling in fear. It all began on a quiet Tuesday evening, one of those ordinary nights where most people were either at home watching TV or scrolling through their phones. In a remote corner of Siberia, far away from bustling cities and crowded neighborhoods, something extraordinary happened. A strange object descended from the sky, glowing faintly against the dark horizon. At first glance, it looked like a meteorite, burning through the atmosphere. But this was no rock. It moved too deliberately, too smoothly. As it hovered above the frozen wilderness, its sleek metallic hull reflected the pale moonlight, revealing intricate designs etched into its surface. Designs unlike anything humans had ever seen. The locals didn't know what to make of it. Some thought it was a government experiment gone wrong. Others whispered about UFO sightings, but before anyone could figure out what the mysterious object was, it acted. Without warning, beams of blue energy shot out from the craft, striking nearby. Military outposts. These bases weren't heavily populated. They were small stations meant to monitor weather patterns and track wildlife movements, but they still housed soldiers who were just doing their jobs. Within seconds, the once quiet outposts erupted into chaos. Explosions rocked the ground, sending plumes of smoke spiraling into the air. When the dust settled, there was nothing left but smoldering craters where buildings once stood. News of the attack spread quickly. At first, many dismissed it as a hoax or some kind of natural disaster. But when video footage surfaced, grainy, clips showing the alien ship hovering ominously over the landscape, it became impossible to ignore. Governments around the world scrambled to respond. Emergency meetings were held in secret bunkers, and military leaders debated how to deal with this unprecedented threat. No one knew who or what they were dealing with. All they knew was that Earth was under attack. Over the next few days, more reports came in. Similar ships appeared in other parts of the world, targeting isolated areas like deserts, forests, and oceans. Each time, the same thing happened. Sudden attacks followed by destruction. Military forces tried to retaliate, launching missiles and fighter jets to intercept the invaders. But none of their weapons worked. Every missile exploded harmlessly against invisible shields surrounding the alien ships. Fighter planes circled helplessly, unable to penetrate the barrier. Humanity's best efforts seemed laughably inadequate compared to the advanced technology wielded by these unknown assailants. Eventually, communication arrived, not in words but in images broadcast directly into human minds. The aliens called themselves the Zorathians, and they were insectoid creatures with hard, chitinous exoskeletons and multifaceted eyes that glinted menacingly. They didn't speak any human language, but their message was clear enough. Through vivid mental projections, they showed scenes of Earth being stripped of resources, its landscapes transformed into barren wastelands. Humans were depicted as insignificant ants, crushed beneath massive claws. The Zorathians wanted Earth for themselves, and they weren't interested in negotiation. Fear gripped the planet. People huddled in their homes, glued to news channels, broadcasting updates about the invasion. Social media buzzed with theories and rumors, ranging from conspiracy claims to desperate prayers for salvation. Some believed the end of the world had finally come. Others argued that humanity needed to fight back, even if it meant sacrificing everything. Protests erupted in major cities, demanding action from governments that seemed paralyzed by indecision. Meanwhile, scientists raced to understand the enemy's technology, hoping to find a weakness that could be exploited. But buried deep within the panic was a spark of hope, a stubborn refusal to give up. Beneath the surface of despair, humanity began to rally. Ordinary citizens started organizing themselves into resistance groups, pooling resources and sharing information. Engineers tinkered with old equipment, trying to modify existing weapons to stand a chance against the Zorathians. Teachers turned classrooms into training grounds, teaching survival skills to students who might soon need them. Even children contributed, drawing pictures of imagined heroes defeating the alien invaders. Though the odds seemed insurmountable, a collective determination took root. Little did the Zorathians know, their arrogance had awakened something powerful. Humanity wasn't just a species clinging to survival, it was a species capable of adaptation, innovation, and sheer willpower. For every setback, there was a countermeasure. For every loss, there was a lesson learned. And unbeknownst to the invaders, Earth harbored secrets that had been hidden for millennia. Secrets that might hold the key to turning the tide of the war. In the weeks following the initial attacks, archaeologists made a startling discovery deep beneath the sands of Egypt. Hidden inside an ancient structure older than the pyramids lay artifacts and writings that hinted at advanced technologies long forgotten by modern society. Could these relics hold answers to humanity's predicament? Scientists rushed to study the findings, poring over cryptic symbols and diagrams that suggested the existence of machines capable of rivaling the Zorathians' power. While experts worked tirelessly to unlock the mysteries of the past, every day, people continued to fight in their own ways. Farmers donated food to feed displaced families. Artists painted murals of unity and resilience, inspiring communities to keep going. Soldiers trained harder than ever, knowing that each day brought them closer to a decisive battle. The Zorathians may have been terrifying, but they had underestimated the strength of the human spirit. As the days turned into weeks, humanity prepared for the fight of its life. Factories churned out supplies, researchers experimented with new ideas, and leaders strategized behind closed doors. Though fear lingered in the hearts of many, it was now accompanied by something else. Hope. Hope that Earth could rise above the ashes of destruction and reclaim its future. Hope that humanity wouldn't go down without a fight. And so, the stage was set. The Zorathians had attacked humanity's outposts, thinking they would crumble under pressure. Instead, they ignited, a fire that burned brighter with each passing day. What the invaders failed to realize was that Earth wasn't just a planet. It was home to a species that thrived in adversity. The real battle was only beginning, and humanity was ready to show the universe what it truly meant to fight back. While the Zorathians continued their relentless assault on Earth, a quiet revolution was brewing deep beneath the planet's surface. It started with whispers among archaeologists and historians, rumors of ancient ruins hidden in places untouched by modern civilization. For years, these stories had been dismissed as myths or exaggerations, but now, with humanity facing extinction, every lead mattered. Every clue could be the difference between survival and annihilation. The breakthrough came in Egypt, where a team of researchers had been excavating an ancient site buried under layers of sand for centuries. What they uncovered defied explanation. Beneath the shifting dunes lay not just another tomb or temple, but a massive underground complex filled with intricate carvings, metallic artifacts, and strange symbols etched into stone walls. At first glance, it looked like something out of science fiction, a relic from a time when humanity's ancestors might have possessed knowledge far beyond what history books recorded. As the archaeologists explored further, they stumbled upon something extraordinary: blueprints. Not ordinary architectural plans, but detailed schematics depicting enormous machines unlike anything seen before. These designs showed colossal starships bristling with weaponry, capable of traveling between stars and obliterating entire fleets. The language used in the diagrams was unfamiliar, but mathematicians quickly realized that the equations matched principles of physics and engineering. Whoever created these plans understood space travel, energy manipulation, and warfare at a level far ahead of contemporary human capabilities. News of the discovery reached global leaders almost immediately. In the midst of chaos, this find offered a glimmer of hope, a chance to turn the tide against the Zorathians. World governments convened emergency meetings, pooling resources and expertise to decipher the ancient documents. Teams of scientists, linguists, and engineers worked around the clock, piecing together fragments of knowledge scattered across the ruins. Slowly but surely, they began to understand how the technology worked. What they learned astonished them. The starships described in the blueprints were powered by a form of energy derived from quantum fields, something humanity had only begun to theorize about in recent decades. Using materials readily available on Earth, such as rare metals and advanced alloys, it seemed possible to replicate the designs. However, constructing these machines would require unprecedented collaboration and effort. Factories around the globe shifted focus overnight, producing components needed to assemble the starships. Entire cities transformed into industrial hubs, their skies filled with drones transporting parts to assembly sites hidden in remote locations. Meanwhile, resistance fighters took matters into their own hands. While scientists worked to unlock the secrets of the past, ordinary citizens banded together to slow the Zorathian advance. Guerrilla tactics became the norm, with small groups launching surprise attacks on alien patrols and supply lines. Civilians turned makeshift bunkers into fortresses, arming themselves with whatever tools they could repurpose. Farmers welded plowshares into crude weapons, mechanics modified vehicles into mobile artillery platforms, and hackers infiltrated enemy communication networks to gather intelligence. Though poorly equipped compared to the invaders, these grassroots efforts bought precious time for humanity's counteroffensive. Stories of bravery spread through social media, inspiring millions to join the cause. One particularly famous incident involved a group of teenagers in Brazil who rigged a network of homemade explosives to disable a Zorathian landing craft. Another told of a retired soldier in Australia who single-handedly sabotaged an alien fuel depot using nothing more than a wrench and sheer determination. These acts of defiance may have seemed insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but collectively, they chipped away at the invaders' confidence. For the first time since the invasion began, cracks started to form in the Zorathians' seemingly invincible facade. Back in the laboratories, progress accelerated. Engineers managed to construct a prototype engine based on the ancient blueprints, and tests showed promising results. The device generated enough power to lift a small spacecraft off the ground, proving that the technology was viable. Encouraged by this success, production ramped up, with factories working non-stop to build additional components. Assembly crews labored day and night, welding metal plates, installing reactors, and calibrating weapon systems. Each completed section of the starship brought humanity one step closer to reclaiming its future. The project wasn't without challenges. Resources were stretched thin, and accidents occurred frequently due to the complexity of the work. Some questioned whether replicating alien-inspired designs was wise, fearing unintended consequences. Others worried about the ethical implications of wielding such destructive power. But desperation overshadowed doubt. With the Zorathians tightening their grip on Earth, there was no room for hesitation. Humanity had to adapt, or perish. Amidst the turmoil, a sense of unity emerged. People from all walks of life contributed to the effort, whether by donating materials, volunteering labor, or simply spreading awareness. Children drew pictures of the starships, imagining them soaring through space to drive the invaders away. Artists painted murals celebrating the resilience of the human spirit. Musicians composed songs honoring those who sacrificed everything to protect their world. Even rival nations set aside their differences, recognizing that survival depended on cooperation rather than competition. By the time the first Star Destroyer was nearing completion, morale had improved significantly. The vessel, dubbed Aurora, was a marvel of engineering, stretching several kilometers long and bristling with cannons and turrets designed to obliterate entire fleets. Its polished surface gleamed under artificial lights, reflecting the determination of everyone involved in its creation. Pilots trained tirelessly in simulators, preparing to command the ship in battle. Strategists devised plans to deploy Aurora alongside existing military forces, ensuring maximum impact against the Zorathians. Though the war was far from over, humanity finally had a weapon capable of matching the invaders' firepower. The sight of Aurora standing tall in its hangar filled people with a renewed sense of purpose. They had faced unimaginable horrors and endured unspeakable losses, yet here they were, still standing, still fighting. The Zorathians may have underestimated humanity's resolve, but they were about to learn a painful lesson. Beneath the surface of despair, a fire burned brighter than ever. Humanity had awakened to its potential, unlocking secrets buried for millennia, and channeling them into a force that could challenge even the most advanced alien race. As the final pieces of Aurora fell into place, the stage was set for a confrontation that would determine the fate of Earth, and perhaps the galaxy itself. And so, the second chapter of humanity's struggle unfolded, not with surrender, but with defiance. The Zorathians thought they had conquered a fragile species, but they had instead ignited a spark that refused to be extinguished. From the ashes of destruction rose a new era, one defined by courage, ingenuity, and an unyielding will to survive. Months had passed since the discovery of the ancient blueprints, and humanity's greatest achievement yet was finally ready to be unveiled. Beneath the icy expanse of Antarctica, hidden from prying eyes and shielded by layers of secrecy, 3 colossal star destroyers stood in their underground hangars. Their sleek surfaces gleamed under artificial lights, reflecting the hopes and fears of billions. These weren't just machines. They were symbols of defiance, proof that humanity could rise above even the darkest moments. The largest of them, Aurora, stretched over 5 kilometers long, its hull reinforced with advanced alloys mined from Earth's deepest quarries. Its sister ships, Phoenix and Eclipse, were slightly smaller but no less formidable. Each vessel bristled with weapon systems designed to obliterate entire fleets. Plasma cannons lined their spines, capable of firing beams of concentrated energy that could cut through the toughest Zorathian shields. Railguns mounted on their flanks launched projectiles at hypersonic speeds, while swarms of fighter drones buzzed around their exteriors like angry bees protecting a hive. But it wasn't just brute force that made these ships extraordinary. It was their ingenuity. Powered by quantum reactors built using principles decoded from the ancient schematics, they harnessed energy on a scale previously unimaginable. This allowed them to generate protective barriers stronger than those used by the Zorathians themselves. For the first time, humanity had leveled the playing field, and then some. As dawn broke over the frozen continent, engineers ran final checks inside the hangars. Pilots suited up in custom-designed gear, their faces etched with determination. Behind them, strategists monitored screens displaying real-time data about enemy movements. Intelligence reports indicated that the Zorathians were preparing for another wave of attacks, unaware of what awaited them. Humanity had decided not to wait any longer. At precisely 0600 hours, the order came down from command centers across the globe. Massive hydraulic doors groaned open, revealing the harsh Antarctic sky. The temperature plummeted as gusts of freezing wind swept through the cavernous hangars. Then one by one, the star destroyers rose into the air, their engines roaring like thunder. Ice cracked beneath their weight as they ascended, breaking free from the confines of Earth's surface. When they reached orbit, sunlight illuminated, their polished surfaces making them look like gods descending from the heavens. The Zorathians noticed immediately. Their reconnaissance ships detected movement near Earth's poles and relayed the information to their commanders. Confident in their superiority, the invaders sent a squadron to investigate. What followed would go down in history as the turning point of the war. When the alien ships approached, Aurora unleashed its payload without hesitation. Beams of blinding energy shot out from its cannons, tearing through the enemy's defenses with ease. The Zorathians' shields flickered and collapsed under the onslaught, leaving their ships exposed. One by one, explosions erupted among the invaders' ranks, sending flaming debris spiraling into space. Phoenix and Eclipse joined the fray, their railguns peppering the remaining vessels with relentless precision. Fighter drones darted between the chaos, targeting weak points and finishing off stragglers. For the first time since the invasion began, humans tasted victory. Cheers erupted worldwide as footage of the battle aired live, showing burning alien wreckage falling toward Earth's atmosphere. Social media lit up with messages of hope and gratitude as people celebrated the triumph of their species against overwhelming odds. Streets filled with crowds waving flags and chanting slogans. It was a moment of unity unlike anything seen before, a reminder that humanity could still dream big, even in the face of extinction. But this was only the beginning. Realizing their newfound advantage, Earth's leaders launched Operation Dawnbreaker, a coordinated effort to reclaim every inch of territory seized by the Zorathians. Troops accompanied the Star Destroyers, storming occupied areas and driving the aliens back. Resistance cells acted as support units, sabotaging supply lines and gathering intelligence. Slowly but surely, humanity pushed forward, reclaiming cities and restoring hope to billions. One particularly pivotal operation took place in North America, where the Zorathians had established a stronghold in the ruins of Chicago. The city had been reduced to rubble during earlier battles, its iconic skyline replaced by jagged remnants of skyscrapers. But beneath the devastation lay an underground network of tunnels and bunkers, which resistance fighters had repurposed into bases of operation. Using intel gathered by hackers, Aurora positioned itself above the city and deployed ground forces equipped with newly developed plasma rifles. The assault was swift and brutal, catching the invaders off guard. By sunrise, the once impenetrable fortress had fallen, and the human flag flew proudly over the remains of the windy city. Similar victories occurred across the globe. In Asia, Eclipse led a daring raid on a Zorathian mining facility located deep within the Himalayas. The operation required scaling treacherous mountain passes and navigating narrow valleys. But the payoff was worth it. Not only did the mission destroy the facility, crippling the invaders' resource extraction efforts, but it also recovered valuable materials that could be used to build more starships. In Europe, Phoenix spearheaded a campaign to liberate Paris, whose Eiffel Tower had become a symbol of resistance after surviving multiple attacks. As the ship hovered overhead, its cannons raining destruction upon the enemy, French troops stormed the streets below, reclaiming their capital amidst cheers and tears. Despite these successes, the fight was far from easy. The Zorathians adapted quickly, deploying new tactics and technologies to counter humanity's advances. Some battles ended in stalemates, others in devastating losses. Yet each skirmish provided valuable lessons, allowing humans to refine their strategies and improve their equipment. Engineers worked tirelessly to upgrade the Star Destroyers, adding experimental features such as cloaking devices and EMP generators. Soldiers trained harder than ever, learning how to exploit weaknesses in the aliens' armor and communication systems. Even civilians played a crucial role, volunteering as medics, engineers, and scouts. Perhaps the most inspiring aspect of this phase of the war was the way ordinary people stepped up to make extraordinary contributions. A teenager in India hacked into a Zorathian drone network, disabling dozens of surveillance units and giving resistance fighters a critical edge. A retired professor in Germany developed a formula for creating synthetic fuel, ensuring that the Star Destroyers never ran out of power. And a group of farmers in Kenya pooled their resources to create makeshift hospitals, treating wounded soldiers and civilians alike. Through it all, the Star Destroyers remained at the heart of humanity's counteroffensive. They became legends, their names whispered with reverence wherever people gathered. Aurora, Phoenix, and Eclipse weren't just machines. They were heroes, embodying the spirit of resilience that defined the human race. Every time they appeared, in the sky they reminded everyone that no matter how dire the situation, there was always hope. Yet despite the progress, humanity knew the war was far from over. The Zorathians controlled key regions across the planet, including vital resources necessary for sustaining life. Worse still, intelligence reports indicated the arrival of reinforcements, a fleet 10 times larger than the initial invasion force. If allowed to reach Earth, humanity's fragile resistance would crumble under sheer numbers. Desperation fueled innovation. Scientists proposed a daring plan, harnessing the power of black holes to create artificial wormholes. By collapsing space-time around specific coordinates, they hoped to trap the incoming fleet in a pocket dimension, effectively neutralizing the threat. The catch? Such an experiment had never been attempted before, and failure could result in catastrophic consequences for both sides. With little choice left, Earth's leaders approved the project. Every available resource was diverted toward building the device codenamed Event Horizon. Meanwhile, the Star Destroyers engaged in hit-and-run tactics, keeping the Zorathians occupied while preparations continued. Tensions ran high as countdown clocks ticked closer to zero. Would Event Horizon work? Or would humanity doom itself trying? As the days turned into weeks, humanity held its breath, waiting for the next chapter of the war to unfold. The Zorathians may have been terrifying foes, but they had awakened something far greater than weapons or technology. They had awakened the indomitable spirit of a species determined to survive. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain. Humanity would not go quietly into the night. The clock was ticking. Humanity had tasted victory, but the cost of complacency was too high to ignore. Intelligence reports painted a grim picture. A massive Zorathian fleet, 10 times larger than the initial invasion force, was en route to Earth. If it arrived unchecked, all progress made so far would be undone. The invaders would crush resistance forces, obliterate remaining cities, and strip the planet bare of resources. For humanity, this wasn't just another battle, it was an existential threat. But fear often breeds innovation. Deep within secure laboratories, scientists worked around the clock on a radical plan that could turn the tide once again. They called it Event Horizon, a project born out of desperation and fueled by hope. The idea was audacious, almost unimaginable, harnessing the immense power of black holes to create artificial wormholes. By collapsing spacetime at specific coordinates, they hoped to trap the incoming Zorathian fleet in a pocket dimension, a prison from which there would be no escape. The concept sounded like science fiction, but humanity had already proven that ancient secrets buried beneath the sands of Egypt could yield functional starships. Why not push the boundaries even further? Theoretical physicists pored over equations, running simulations on supercomputers. Engineers designed colossal machines, capable of manipulating gravitational fields. Teams of technicians assembled components in secret locations scattered across the globe, ensuring redundancy in case one site was compromised. Yet, doubts lingered. No experiment of this scale had ever been attempted before. Even minor miscalculations could have catastrophic consequences, not just for the Zorathians but for Earth itself. What if the wormhole destabilized? Could it collapse inward, swallowing entire continents? Or worse, what if it expanded uncontrollably, tearing apart the fabric of reality? These questions haunted everyone involved, but time offered no room for hesitation. Humanity had gambled everything on the Star Destroyers. Now it was placing its final bet on Event Horizon. While preparations continued, the Star Destroyers played a crucial role in delaying the inevitable. Aurora, Phoenix, and Eclipse launched relentless hit-and-run attacks against Zorathian outposts, keeping the invaders distracted and preventing them from consolidating their forces. Fighter drones swarmed enemy ships, targeting weak points and disabling critical systems. Ground troops supported these operations, retaking strategic locations and fortifying defenses. Every skirmish bought precious time for the scientists working tirelessly to complete Event Horizon. Resistance fighters also stepped up their efforts. Guerrilla tactics slowed the Zorathian advance, forcing them to divert resources away from their main objectives. In South America, a group of rebels infiltrated an alien supply depot, sabotaging fuel reserves and destroying communication arrays. Across Africa, makeshift armies ambushed convoys transporting materials needed for the invaders' war effort. Civilians contributed too, building underground networks to shelter refugees and smuggle vital supplies to frontline fighters. Though poorly equipped compared to their foes, these grassroots movements proved surprisingly effective, chipping away at the Zorathians' confidence. Meanwhile, public morale remained fragile, yet resilient. News outlets broadcast updates about the ongoing conflict, showcasing footage of battles won and lost. Images of burning alien ships filled screens worldwide, inspiring hope among viewers. Social media buzzed with stories of heroism, from soldiers risking their lives to protect civilians, to ordinary citizens finding creative ways to resist. Artists painted murals depicting the Star Destroyers as saviors of humanity, while musicians composed anthems celebrating unity and defiance. Even children joined the cause, organizing fundraisers and writing letters to troops stationed on the front lines. Despite these moments of inspiration, anxiety loomed large. People knew the stakes were higher than ever. Governments issued emergency alerts urging citizens to prepare for evacuation in case the worst happened. Factories ramped up production of survival gear, including oxygen masks, radiation suits, and portable shelters. Underground bunkers became overcrowded as families sought refuge from potential devastation above ground. Some chose to stay behind, vowing to fight until the bitter end. Others fled to remote areas, hoping to avoid the brunt of the impending assault. Back in the labs, tension mounted as the countdown to activation approached 0. Final tests revealed promising results, but variables outside human control still posed risks. Would the machine hold together under such immense strain? Could the wormhole be precisely calibrated to target only the Zorathian fleet? Scientists debated endlessly, weighing probabilities and adjusting parameters. Military leaders monitored the situation closely, ready to intervene if necessary. Everyone understood that failure meant annihilation, not just for humanity, but possibly for the entire solar system. Finally, the day arrived. The Zorathian reinforcements entered Earth's orbit, their numbers overwhelming. Thousands of ships blotted out the stars, casting eerie shadows across the planet below. Their arrival triggered panic among civilians who scrambled to find safety. Resistance fighters mobilized for what many feared might be their last stand. Pilots aboard the Star Destroyers prepared for one final, desperate assault. At mission, control engineers initiated the sequence to activate Event Horizon. Massive rings began spinning, generating gravitational waves that rippled through space-time. Energy surged through conduits, lighting up the night sky with an otherworldly glow. Observers held their breath as the device reached peak output. Then, with a deafening roar, the wormhole opened, a swirling vortex of light and shadow stretching across the heavens. The Zorathians hesitated, unsure of what they were witnessing. Their sensors detected anomalies in the surrounding space, but their commanders dismissed them as glitches. Moments later, the wormhole expanded, engulfing the lead ships of the fleet. One by one, vessels disappeared into the void, pulled inexorably toward oblivion. Sensors confirmed their fate, trapped in a pocket dimension, unable to escape or communicate with the outside world. For humanity, the moment was surreal. Screens flickered with data showing the gradual disappearance of the Zorathian reinforcements. Cheers erupted in command centers, spreading rapidly to streets and homes around the globe. People hugged each other, cried tears of relief, and celebrated the impossible triumph. Against all odds, humanity had succeeded where logic said it shouldn't. But the victory came at a price. The sheer energy required to maintain the wormhole strained Earth's resources to the breaking point. Power grids faltered, leaving millions without electricity. Satellites malfunctioned due to residual gravitational distortions, disrupting global communications. And though the immediate threat had been neutralized, lingering fears persisted. What if the wormhole destabilized? Could it expand and consume more than intended? In the aftermath, leaders convened to assess the situation. Engineers worked to stabilize the device, ensuring it wouldn't spiral out of control. Meanwhile, cleanup operations began in earnest. Wreckage from destroyed Zorathian ships rained down from orbit, requiring coordinated efforts to prevent further damage. Refugees returned to their homes, picking up the pieces of shattered lives. Yet amidst the destruction, a sense of purpose emerged. Humanity had faced extinction head-on and emerged stronger than ever. The success of Event Horizon marked a turning point, not just in the war, but in human history. For the first time, people realized they weren't alone in the universe, but neither were they powerless. Ancient blueprints had unlocked technologies capable of rivaling advanced alien civilizations. Ingenuity and determination had turned the tide against overwhelming odds. Now, as survivors looked to the future, they dreamed of something greater, exploring the stars, forging alliances, and uncovering the mysteries of their ancestors' forgotten past. Though scars remained, both physical and emotional, humanity refused to let them define its destiny. Instead, they served as reminders of how far they'd come and how much farther they could go. The Zorathians may have underestimated humanity's resolve, but they had inadvertently sparked a revolution, one that transformed Earth from a vulnerable planet into a formidable force among the stars. And so, the fourth chapter of humanity's struggle ended not with despair but with promise. For every challenge overcome, there awaited another horizon to conquer. The dust had barely settled when humanity paused to take stock of what it had achieved and what it had lost. The Zorathian reinforcements were gone, trapped in a pocket dimension created by Event Horizon. Their massive fleet, once poised to overwhelm Earth, now floated aimlessly in an endless void, unable to harm anyone ever again. Humanity had won, a victory so improbable that even those who had fought hardest struggled to believe it was real. But the war had left deep scars. Cities lay in ruins, their skylines reduced to jagged skeletons of steel and concrete. Billions of lives had been uprooted, displaced by conflict or mourning loved ones lost in the chaos. Farmland was scorched, rivers polluted with alien chemicals, and ecosystems disrupted beyond recognition. The cost of survival had been staggering, both in human lives and environmental devastation. Yet amidst the rubble, something remarkable emerged. A collective determination not just to rebuild, but to evolve. The success of the Star Destroyers and Event Horizon proved one thing beyond doubt. Humanity wasn't bound by its limitations. Ancient secrets buried beneath the sands of Egypt had unlocked technologies far ahead of modern science. Courage, ingenuity, and sheer willpower had turned the tide against an enemy thought unbeatable. Now, as people began picking up the pieces, they dared to dream bigger than ever before. If humanity could stand toe-to-toe with the Zorathians, what else might it achieve? Reconstruction efforts started almost immediately. Governments around the world pooled resources, prioritizing shelter, food, and medical care for survivors. Factories previously dedicated to building weapons shifted focus to producing supplies needed for rebuilding. Engineers used knowledge, gained from reverse engineering alien technology to create sustainable energy solutions, purifying water sources and restoring power grids. Scientists worked tirelessly to heal the planet's wounded environment, planting trees, reintroducing wildlife, and cleaning toxic waste left behind by the invaders. Yet reconstruction wasn't limited to physical structures. It extended to society itself. The war had forced humanity to unite in ways no one thought possible. Nations that had once competed fiercely now collaborated openly, sharing technology, expertise, and resources. Borders became less rigid as global partnerships strengthened. Even rival ideologies found common ground in the shared goal of survival. For the first time in history, Earth truly felt like one world, a fragile yet resilient home united under a single banner. As cities rose anew from the ashes, so too did humanity's ambitions. With the Zorathian threat neutralized, attention turned outward, to the stars. The Star Destroyers, once symbols of desperation, now represented opportunity. Aurora, Phoenix, and Eclipse weren't just tools of war. They were vessels capable of carrying humanity into uncharted territories. Explorers prepared for voyages beyond the solar system, seeking allies, answers, and perhaps revenge against the remnants of the Zorathian Empire. Before setting off on these cosmic journeys, however, humanity sought closure. Researchers analyzed data recovered from captured alien ships, piecing together the history of the Zorathians. What they discovered was chilling. The insectoid invaders weren't conquerors. They were refugees, fleeing extinction on their dying homeworld. Desperate to survive, they had scoured the galaxy for habitable planets, enslaving other species along the way. Their attack on Earth hadn't been personal. It had been pragmatic. To them, humans were simply another obstacle in their quest for survival. This revelation sparked heated debates. Some argued that the Zorathians deserved compassion, given their plight. Others insisted that mercy would only invite future aggression. Ultimately, humanity chose a middle path. Representatives traveled to the edge of the wormhole, broadcasting messages into the pocket dimension where the invaders remained trapped. They offered peace. If the Zorathians agreed to cease all hostilities and share knowledge about their AU civilization. In return, humanity promised to help them find a new home elsewhere in the galaxy, far from Earth. To everyone's surprise, the Zorathians accepted. Communication between the two species was slow and fraught with misunderstandings, but over time, trust began to form. Engineers exchanged ideas, learning from each other's advancements. Biologists studied Zorathian biology, discovering potential cures for diseases afflicting both humans and aliens alike. Historians pored over records detailing the rise and fall of the Zorathian Empire, gaining insights into galactic politics and ancient civilizations long forgotten. With tensions easing, humanity turned its gaze outward once more. Armed with lessons learned from the war and from their former enemies, they launched ambitious missions into deep space. Pilots trained rigorously, preparing for encounters with unknown dangers. Colonists volunteered to settle distant worlds, carrying seeds, tools, and dreams of creating new societies among the stars. Scientists equipped ships with advanced sensors designed to detect signs of intelligent life, hoping to avoid repeating the mistakes of first contact. One such mission led to the discovery of a peaceful alien race known as the Veilith, whose shimmering, crystalline cities floated atop vast oceans. Unlike the Zorathians, the Veilith welcomed humanity with open arms, eager to share their wisdom and culture. Through them, humans learned about the Galactic Concord, a loose alliance of species committed to mutual coexistence and exploration. Humanity's entry into this interstellar community marked a new chapter in its history, transforming Earth from a vulnerable planet into a respected member of the cosmos. Back on Earth, life continued to flourish. Ruined cities gave way to gleaming metropolises powered by clean energy. Education systems revamped curriculums to include astrophysics, xenobiology, and intercultural diplomacy. Artists drew inspiration from alien aesthetics, blending them with traditional styles to create entirely new forms of expression. Musicians composed symphonies celebrating unity, while filmmakers chronicled humanity's journey from near extinction to galactic prominence. Every aspect of society reflected the profound changes brought about by the war. But perhaps the most significant shift occurred within individuals themselves. People no longer saw themselves as mere inhabitants of a single planet. They were explorers, pioneers, and ambassadors representing a species capable of greatness. Fear of the unknown gave way to curiosity and wonder. Challenges that once seemed insurmountable became opportunities for growth. Humanity had faced its darkest hour and emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. As years passed, stories of the Zorathian War faded into legend, retold by grandparents to wide-eyed grandchildren. Monuments were erected to honor those who had sacrificed everything, ensuring their bravery would never be forgotten. Museums displayed artifacts from the conflict, alien weapons alongside human innovations, as reminders of how far humanity had come. And though the scars of war remained etched into the landscape, they served not as symbols of despair but as testaments to resilience. In the end, humanity realized that the true victory wasn't defeating the Zorathians, it was proving to itself that it could overcome any challenge. The war had awakened something powerful within the human spirit, a drive to explore, adapt, and persevere. From the ashes of destruction rose a brighter future, one defined not by fear but by hope. And so, the fifth and final chapter of humanity's struggle unfolded, not with resignation, but with promise. The Zorathians may have been terrifying foes, but they inadvertently ignited a revolution that transformed Earth forever. Humanity had stared into the abyss and refused to back down. Now, armed with courage, ingenuity, and a newfound sense of purpose, it stood ready to face whatever horizons awaited among the stars.